The pregnancy test clattered into the airport bathroom sink, two pink lines mocking me through tears I refused to shed. Gate 47 was calling my flight to Bali, the honeymoon destination printed on the wedding invitation they'd sent me 3 weeks ago. The invitation that arrived in a glitter-filled envelope with a note, "Don't worry, we saved you a seat at the singles table." My ex-husband Derek and my former best friend Vanessa, getting married in Bali. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection. 5 years of marriage, gone. My best friend since college, gone. And now I was pregnant with a baby whose father had served me divorce papers via email while I was at my mother's funeral. The phone in my pocket buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Terminal 3, Coffee Bean. Now. A. My hands trembled. I knew that initial. Adrian. The man I'd been seeing for exactly 43 days. The man who'd appeared in my life like some kind of beautiful disaster right after the divorce papers arrived. The man who'd held me through panic attacks and never once asked for anything in return. The man I'd lied to about everything. I'd told him I was a freelance photographer traveling for work. That I was divorced, yes, but that it was amicable. That I was flying to Bali for a solo healing retreat. What I hadn't told him was that I was flying to Bali to watch my ex-husband marry my ex-best friend from a distance, like some kind of masochistic spectator sport. That I'd bought a ticket using my maiden name and booked a hotel 3 blocks from their resort just to, what, torture myself? The bathroom door swung open, and a woman rushed in, apologizing as she bumped past me. I grabbed the pregnancy test, wrapped it in paper towels, and shoved it deep into the trash. There would be time to process this later. Right now, I had a mysterious coffee meeting. Adrian was sitting at a corner table, 2 untouched lattes growing cold in front of him. He wasn't dressed in his usual casual-style jeans and a leather jacket that made him look like he belonged in a cologne commercial. Today, he wore a crisp uniform, dark navy blue with official patches I couldn't quite make out from the entrance. My stomach dropped. He looked up as I approached, his jade-green eyes unreadable. "Sit down, Natalie." I sat, my legs suddenly unreliable. "What's going on? Why are you dressed like an Indonesian immigration officer?" He slid one of the lattes toward me. "Because that's what I am." "Well, technically, I'm a senior enforcement agent for Indonesia's immigration department, specializing in visa fraud and document forgery." The airport noise faded to white static. "I don't understand. You told me you were going to Bali for a photography retreat. Solo healing journey, you said." He pulled out a tablet, tapping it to life. "But you're not a photographer, are you, Natalie? Or should I call you Doctor?" "Natalie Harper, head of cardiac surgery at Mount Sinai Medical Center." My mouth went dry. "How did you—" "It's literally my job to investigate people entering Indonesia." He turned the tablet toward me. My entire life was displayed in neat, official documents, medical license, hospital credentials, property records showing the brownstone in Brooklyn Heights I'd bought 3 years ago, bank statements that revealed I wasn't some struggling freelancer, but a surgeon who earned more in a month than most people earned in a year. And there, at the bottom of the screen, were the divorce papers. The real ones, showing that my divorce from Derek Whitmore had been finalized exactly 67 days ago, far from amicable, contested, brutal, and expensive. "Why?" I whispered. "Why did you investigate me?" Adrian leaned back, his expression softening slightly. "Because 45 days ago, a man named Derek Whitmore applied for a special marriage visa to Indonesia. He was marrying a woman named Vanessa Rodriguez. They wanted to have their wedding at a luxury resort in Seminyak, followed by a 3-week honeymoon." He swiped to another screen. There they were. Derek and Vanessa, smiling in their visa application photos, my ex-husband with his perfectly styled dark hair and that dimple that used to make my knees weak, Vanessa with her practiced Instagram smile and the diamond bracelet I'd given her for her 30th birthday still on her wrist. "Standard application. Nothing unusual," Adrian continued. Except when I ran Derek's background check, I found something interesting. He'd been married before, to a Dr. Natalie Harper. Divorce finalized less than 3 months ago. And when I dug deeper, I found something even more interesting. He pulled out a physical folder from his bag, sliding it across the table. Inside were printouts of bank transfers, property records, and legal documents I'd never seen before. "Your ex-husband," Adrian said quietly, "has been systematically stealing from you for the past 2 years. He emptied your joint investment account, the one you thought had $340,000 in it. He withdrew it 18 months ago and transferred it to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. That brownstone you think is in both your names? He forged documents to transfer the deed entirely to himself 6 months before filing for divorce. The life insurance policy on you? He increased it to $5 million and made sure the divorce papers wouldn't finalize until after your mother's funeral, when you were too grief-stricken to notice the details." My hands shook as I flipped through the documents. This couldn't be real. Derek was selfish, yes. He'd had an affair with my best friend, yes. But this was criminal. "There's more," Adrian said, his voice dropping even lower. "Vanessa isn't just your ex-best friend. She's a known con artist. Real name, Vanessa Cordero. She's wanted in 3 states for marriage fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. She targets wealthy, recently divorced men and bleeds them dry before disappearing." I looked up at him, my mind reeling. "But Derek isn't wealthy. I'm the one who—" And then it hit me. "He's using my money. The money he stole. He's going to give it to her, and she's going to disappear with it." "Exactly." Adrian closed the folder. "And here's where it gets interesting. The wedding invitation they sent you? That wasn't just cruel. It was strategic. They wanted you to know about the wedding, wanted you to be hurt and angry, but they never expected you to actually show up. The invitation was their alibi. We even invited his ex-wife. We have nothing to hide." "But I am showing up," I said slowly. "I bought a ticket. I'm on the same flight as them." "I know." Adrian smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile, it was calculating. "Dangerous. Flight 847 to Ngurah Rai International Airport, departing in 45 minutes. Derek and Vanessa are in first class. You're in economy, row 32. You used your maiden name, Harper, and paid cash for the ticket. You've been watching me this whole time. It wasn't a question. I've been building a case," he corrected. "Vanessa has slipped through our fingers 3 times. She's good at disappearing. But this time, she's walking into my jurisdiction. And your ex-husband? He's carrying stolen money across international borders. That's federal and international crime." I sat back, trying to process everything. 43 days. I'd known this man for 43 days, and he'd been investigating my ex-husband the entire time. "So what was I?" I asked, hating how my voice cracked. "Was I just part of your case? Some convenient source of information?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "That's what it was supposed to be. When I found out Derek's ex-wife was a cardiac surgeon who worked insane hours and had just lost her mother, I thought you'd be an easy target. I'd bump into you, get you talking, learn about Derek's habits and patterns. Simple intelligence gathering." "But," I prompted. "But you weren't what I expected." He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration evident. "You were supposed to be some bitter ex-wife, easy to read, easy to manipulate. Instead, you were this brilliant, broken woman who cried over her dead mother's recipe cards and worked 70-hour weeks, saving lives, and still somehow found the energy to be kind to everyone around her. You weren't part of the plan, Natalie. You were never part of the plan. Am I supposed to be flattered?" I asked coldly. "No." He met my eyes. "You're supposed to be angry. You should hate me, but before you do, you need to hear the rest." I crossed my arms. "I'm listening." The wedding invitation wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. In Indonesia, it's a crime to harass or psychologically torment someone across international boundaries. That invitation, combined with the note they sent, constitutes criminal harassment. I have the evidence. I have their fingerprints on the envelope. I have everything I need to make sure they never leave Indonesia. My heart hammered in my chest. What are you saying? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. I'm saying that in approximately 6 hours, Derek and Vanessa will land in Bali. They'll go through customs, where I will be the officer processing their entry, and I will have some very specific questions about their financial situation, their marriage license, and why they thought it would be funny to send a harassment letter to a U.S. citizen. You're going to arrest them? I asked. I'm going to detain them for questioning. How long that questioning lasts depends on what I find during the inspection, and what I find depends on what information I have access to. He leaned forward. You're a victim of financial fraud, Natalie. You have every right to report this crime. And if you do, if you give me permission to access your financial records and file a formal complaint, I can make sure they don't enjoy a single day of that honeymoon. I thought about the pregnancy test in the airport bathroom trash, about the baby growing inside me from a night 6 weeks ago when I'd been too drunk on grief and loneliness to be careful, about the fact that Derek had stolen my money, my brownstone, and my best friend, and then sent me a glitter-filled invitation to mock me for it. What do you need from me? I asked. Adrian pulled out an official-looking document. Sign this. It's a criminal complaint form. You're reporting Derek Whitmore for financial fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. You're authorizing the Indonesian government to investigate his assets and freeze any suspicious accounts. And you're requesting that he be detained until the investigation is complete. I picked up the pen he offered. What happens to Vanessa? Vanessa Cordero has an outstanding warrant in Indonesia for a previous con she pulled on a Jakarta businessman. The moment she steps off that plane, she's going into custody. But Derek? Adrian smiled grimly. Derek is yours. Well, ours. But you'll have front row seats to his downfall. And what about you? I asked, the pen hovering over the signature line. What happens to us? Was any of it real? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he finally said. I lied about why I approached you. But everything else, every conversation, every moment, every time I held you while you cried, that was real. I didn't plan to care about you, Natalie. But I do. That's not good enough, I said. I know. He stood up. That's why I'm telling you all of this now before you get on that plane. You can sign that document and fly to Bali, and I will destroy Derek Whitmore's life. Or you can walk away right now, go home, and never see me again. Your choice. I looked down at the document, at Derek's name printed in official type, at the line where my signature would seal his fate. There's something you should know, I said quietly. I'm pregnant. Adrian sat back down, slowly. Derek's? No. I met his eyes. Yours. The airport announcement system crackled to life, calling for final boarding for Flight 847 to Bali. I found out 20 minutes ago, I continued. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I don't know if I'm keeping it. I don't know anything except that for the past 2 years, I've been living in a lie. Derek lied. Vanessa lied. And you lied. So right now, the only person I can trust is myself. I signed the document with a flourish and pushed it back across the table. But I'm getting on that plane, I said, standing up. Not because of you, not because of Derek or Vanessa, but because I'm tired of being the person things happen to. I'm tired of being the victim, the grieving daughter, the betrayed wife. I want to be the person who fights back. Adrian picked up the document, carefully folding it into his bag. Then let's fight back together. Not together, I corrected, slinging my carry-on over my shoulder. You'll do your job, I'll do mine. And maybe, at the end of this, we'll figure out if there's anything real left between us. I walked toward the gate, not looking back. Behind me, I heard Adrian making phone calls, setting his trap into motion. Ahead of me, Gate 47 was doing final boarding calls. In first class, Derek and Vanessa were probably already sipping champagne, laughing about the pathetic ex-wife who'd received their invitation and done nothing about it. They had no idea that same ex-wife was 30 rows behind them, carrying their destruction in her carry-on bag. And they definitely had no idea that waiting for them in Bali was an immigration officer who knew every secret they'd tried to hide. The flight attendant checked my boarding pass with a sympathetic smile. Rough day? I must have looked terrible, tear-stained face, hands still shaking, everything about me screaming emotional disaster. You could say that, I managed. She leaned in conspiratorially. Free wine in economy today. Looks like you could use it. I thought about the baby, about the fact that I'd have to refuse alcohol for the next several months if I decided to keep this pregnancy, about how nothing in my life was simple anymore. Just water, I said. I have a feeling I need to stay clear-headed. I settled into seat 32B, wedged between an elderly woman knitting something purple and a businessman already snoring against the window. The plane's engines hummed to life, that distinctive whine that meant we were about to taxi. My phone buzzed one last time before I switched it to airplane mode. Adrian, they're seated in 4A and 4B. Derek ordered champagne. Vanessa is taking selfies. Neither of them looked back at economy even once. They have no idea you're here. I typed back, good. Keep it that way. Another message. Immigration is expecting them. I've briefed the team. There will be 6 officers ready when they land, standard procedure for suspected financial criminals. Are you ready for this? Was I ready? I'd lost my mother 3 months ago to a sudden aneurysm. Lost my husband and best friend to an affair I'd been too busy saving lives to notice. Lost my brownstone, my savings, and apparently my entire financial security to a con man I'd trusted with everything. But I'd gained something too. A tiny cluster of cells growing inside me, a stranger who'd become an ally, even if our foundation was built on lies. And most importantly, I'd gained clarity. I typed, I'm ready. But Adrian? After this is over, we need to have a serious conversation about boundaries and honesty. I know, he replied. I'll be waiting at customs. Don't let them see you. The plane pushed back from the gate. Through the small window, I could see the New York skyline fading into the distance. Somewhere in this metal tube, Derek was probably showing Vanessa the photos of the villa they'd booked with my stolen money. Probably planning the future they'd build on my shattered past. The elderly woman next to me set down her knitting. First time to Bali? Yes, I said. Business trip. What kind of business? I smiled, and it felt dangerous. Settling some old accounts. She laughed, thinking I was joking, and went back to her knitting. I leaned back and closed my eyes, trying to calm my racing mind. 7 hours to Bali. 7 hours to plan exactly what I would say when I saw Derek's face as he was detained. 7 hours to decide if I was strong enough to watch everything burn down without burning myself in the process. My phone buzzed one last time before the signal died completely. Adrian, one more thing. The hotel you booked? The one 3 blocks from their resort? I moved your reservation. You're now in the presidential suite at the same resort, 2 floors above them. I figured you'd want a good view. I smiled despite everything. Maybe Adrian and I had started with lies, but at least now he understood what I needed. I needed to watch Derek Whitmore's world fall apart from the best seat in the house. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude, and the seatbelt sign dinged off. Around me, passengers settled into their long flight routines, movies, books, sleep. I pulled out my laptop, connecting to the in-flight Wi-Fi despite the ridiculous cost. I had 7 hours to prepare. 7 hours to gather every piece of evidence I had on Derek, every bank statement, every property document, every email where he'd lied about our investments. But first, I opened my encrypted messages, the ones I used for hospital emergencies. There was one person I needed to contact before we landed. One person who'd been in my corner since medical school and who I'd been too proud to call when everything fell apart. Rachel. I typed to my old roommate who was now a federal prosecutor in Manhattan. I need your help, and I need you to not ask questions until I land in Bali, but I'm about to blow open a financial fraud case, and I need to make sure every single piece of evidence is admissible in U.S. court. The response came surprisingly fast. Nat? Is this about Derek? I heard about the divorce. Where are you? Currently at 35,000 feet, heading to my ex-husband's wedding to watch him get arrested. Long story. Can you help? There was a long pause. Then, I'm listening. Tell me everything. So I did. I spent the next 2 hours typing out everything Adrian had told me, every document he'd shown me, every piece of evidence of Derek's systematic theft. Rachel responded with legal questions, asking me to clarify dates and amounts, making sure we had a solid case. "Nat," she finally wrote, "this is bigger than I thought. Derek didn't just steal from you. If he's been moving money through offshore accounts and using fraudulent documents, we can charge him with wire fraud, identity theft, money laundering, and international financial crimes. We're talking 10 to 20 years in federal prison." My hands hovered over the keyboard. 10 to 20 years. Derek would be nearly 60 by the time he got out. His entire life. Destroyed. "Do it," I typed. "File the papers. I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." "And the Indonesian charges?" Rachel asked. "Those are separate. He'll face those first. But I want to make sure that when he's done in Indonesia, he doesn't get to just fly home and disappear. I want him to land at JFK in handcuffs." "You've got it. I'll need you to sign some documents when you land. Can you scan and email them?" "Adrian, the immigration officer, he'll help me with that." Another pause. "Nat, are you sure you can trust this Adrian person? I mean, he admitted to investigating you under false pretenses. That's pretty messed up." I thought about that. About the way Adrian had held me when I cried over my mother's recipes. About how he'd known exactly which coffee I needed on the hard days. About the fact that he could have kept lying, could have let me fly to Bali without warning me, and instead, he'd told me everything. "I don't know if I can trust him," I admitted. "But right now, he's the only person who's telling me the truth, even if that truth started with a lie." "Fair enough. Be careful, Nat. And call me when you land. I want to know you're okay." "I will." I closed the laptop and stared at the seat in front of me. 6 rows ahead, I could just see the top of Derek's head, that perfectly styled hair that he spent 45 minutes on every morning. I wondered if Vanessa knew about that. If she knew that he used my credit card to buy his expensive hair products. If she knew that the cologne he wore was something I'd picked out for our first anniversary. If she knew that the man she was marrying was a criminal who'd stolen from his wife while she grieved her mother's death. The rage hit me then. Sudden and overwhelming. Not the quiet, cold anger I'd been carrying for weeks, but hot, burning fury that made my hands shake and my vision blur. Derek had stolen my mother's memory from me. He'd taken the money I'd been saving to donate to cardiac research in her name and spent it on... What? This wedding? This honeymoon? Another woman who was using him just as much as he'd used me? I stood up abruptly, startling the businessman beside me. "Sorry," I muttered. "Bathroom." I locked myself in the tiny airplane lavatory and stared at my reflection in the harsh fluorescent light. My skin was pale, dark circles under my eyes from too many nights, working double shifts to avoid going home to an empty apartment. My hair was pulled back in a messy bun that had seen better days. I looked exhausted, defeated. I looked like a victim. I splashed cold water on my face, then carefully reapplied my makeup. Not the natural, barely there look I usually wore to the hospital, but something stronger, sharper. I lined my eyes in dark kohl, applied deep red lipstick, the kind of war paint that said I was here to fight. When I returned to my seat, the elderly woman gave me an approving nod. "Much better, dear. You look like a woman with a mission." "I am," I said. The hours crawled by. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face when I'd told him about my mother's death. The way he'd hugged me and whispered that everything would be okay. The way he'd insisted on handling all the funeral arrangements because I was too emotional to deal with it. He'd handled it, all right. He'd handled it by emptying our joint account while I was grieving. My phone buzzed as we approached Indonesian airspace. Adrian must have been monitoring the flight. "Landing in 40 minutes. Are you ready?" I typed back. Define ready. Ready equals calm, collected, and prepared to watch Derek Whitmore have the worst day of his life. Then yes, I'm ready. Good. When you land, go through customs normally. I won't be your processing officer that would look suspicious, but I'll be in the room. I'll find you afterward. What about Derek and Vanessa? They'll be pulled aside for routine additional screening. Should take about 6 hours. maybe longer if they're uncooperative. 6 hours? I smiled. In a holding room? Missing their luxury villa check-in? Exactly. And that's just the beginning. By the time I'm done with them, they'll wish they'd never heard of Bali. The plane began its descent. Around me, passengers stirred, packing up laptops and closing window shades against the bright tropical sun. I could see Bali below lush green jungle, sparkling ocean, the famous beaches that made this island a paradise. Derek and Vanessa thought they were descending into paradise too. They had no idea they were descending into hell. The wheels touched down with a slight bump. The plane taxied to the gate. My heart hammered in my chest as I waited for the seatbelt sign to turn off. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, "welcome to Ngurah Rai International Airport in Bali. The local time is 2:43 p.m. and the temperature is a beautiful 86 degrees. We know you have many choices when you fly, and we thank you for choosing us today." Choices. Everything came down to choices. Derek had chosen to steal from me, Vanessa had chosen to help him, and I had chosen to follow them halfway around the world to make sure they faced the consequences. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers stood, gathering their bags from the overhead compartments. I stayed seated, watching as Derek and Vanessa emerged from first class. They looked perfect. Derek in his expensive linen shirt and designer sunglasses, Vanessa in a white sundress that probably cost more than my plane ticket. They were laughing about something, completely oblivious to the woman watching them from economy, completely oblivious to the trap waiting for them in customs. I waited until they'd exited the plane before standing. The elderly woman gave me one last knowing look. "Good hunting, dear," she said. I smiled. "Thank you." The humid Bali air hit me as I stepped off the plane, but I barely noticed. I was too focused on staying far enough behind Derek and Vanessa to avoid detection, close enough to watch what happened next. The customs hall was massive, with long lines of tourists waiting to get their passports stamped. Derek and Vanessa breezed past the regular lines, heading for the express lane for first-class passengers. That's when I saw him. Adrian, standing at the express lane desk in his crisp uniform, looking every bit the professional immigration officer, and he was staring directly at Derek and Vanessa with the cold expression of someone about to ruin their entire lives. Derek handed over their passports, smiling. "Beautiful country you have here." Adrian took the passports without smiling back. "Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. How long will you be staying in Indonesia?" 3 weeks. Honeymoon. Derek put his arm around Vanessa proudly. "Just got married." "Congratulations!" Adrian scanned their passports into his computer. Then his expression changed, just slightly. "Mr. Whitmore, Miss Rodriguez, I'm going to need you to step aside for additional screening." Derek's smile faltered. "Is there a problem?" "Just routine. Please step through the door on your right." "But our bags will be held for you." "Please step through the door, sir." I watched as 2 more officers appeared, politely but firmly directing Derek and Vanessa away from the main customs area. Vanessa looked back at the crowd, confusion written across her face. Derek was arguing with one of the officers, his voice rising. Then Adrian caught my eye across the customs hall. He gave me the slightest nod. "Your turn." I walked up to a different customs officer, a young woman with kind eyes. She stamped my passport without issue, welcoming me to Indonesia with a warm smile. As I collected my bags, I could hear raised voices from behind the closed door where Derek and Vanessa had been taken. Derek, demanding to speak to a supervisor. Vanessa, her voice high and panicked. I walked past that door without stopping, heading for the airport exit where a driver was waiting with my name on a sign. As I slid into the air-conditioned car, my phone buzzed. "Adrian, they're in custody." Vanessa's warrant came up immediately. "Derek is claiming ignorance about everything. It's not going well for him." Me, "How long will you hold them?" Adrian, "As long as it takes. Days maybe. We have a lot of questions about their finances." Me, "Good." Adrian, "Your suite is ready. Champagne on ice, ocean view, everything you need." I leaned back in the car seat, watching the Bali scenery flash by. Palm trees, colorful temples, smiling locals on motorbikes. Paradise. Actually, I typed, there's one more thing I need. Name it. Derek's villa. The one they booked with my money. I want the booking transferred to my name. I want them to arrive if they ever get released to find out they have nowhere to stay. There was a long pause. Then, consider it done. I smiled, closed my eyes, and let myself feel the weight of the past few months finally lifting. Derek and Vanessa wanted to destroy me with their invitation. They wanted me to feel small and powerless and pathetic. Instead, they'd given me the perfect weapon. And I was just getting started. The presidential suite was obscene in its luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Indian Ocean, a private infinity pool on the balcony, marble everything. The kind of place Derek would have posted about on social media with some caption about living the dream. Instead, he was in a concrete holding room being interrogated about offshore accounts. I dropped my bags and walked straight to the minibar, grabbing a bottle of sparkling water. No alcohol, not with the pregnancy. God, the pregnancy. I still hadn't processed that little bombshell. A baby. With a man who'd been using me for information about my criminal ex-husband. My phone rang. Adrian, don't answer, I told myself. But my traitorous hand was already swiping to accept. You settled in? His voice was professional, clipped, like we were business associates instead of whatever we were. The suite is beautiful, I said. Shame about the circumstances. Derek and Vanessa are being less cooperative than I'd hoped. Derek keeps demanding to call the U.S. Embassy. Vanessa went completely silent the moment we brought up the Jakarta warrant. I walked onto the balcony, the warm Bali breeze immediately plastering my clothes to my skin. 2 floors below, I could see the villa Derek had booked. Empty. Waiting for occupants who would never arrive. How long can you hold them? I asked. Legally? 72 hours without charging them. But once we start filing charges, and we will, it could be weeks before they see daylight. Vanessa's going directly to Jakarta to face her previous charges. Derek's case is more complicated. Complicated how? Adrian was quiet for a moment. The money he stole from you? It's gone. Most of it anyway. He's been spending it for months. Luxury items, this wedding, payments to Vanessa. We can freeze what's left and start recovery proceedings. But Natalie, you're not getting back what he took. I gripped the balcony railing. $340,000. Years of savings, investments, money I'd earned through countless surgeries and sleepless nights. Gone. What about the brownstone? I asked. That we can fix. The deed transfer was fraudulent. Your lawyer can file a motion to reverse it. It'll take time, but the property is still legally yours. Small comfort. And the life insurance policy? That's the interesting part. I could hear papers shuffling on Adrian's end. Derek increased your policy to $5 million 3 months ago. But he made a mistake. He forged your signature on the paperwork, which makes the entire policy void. The insurance company is already investigating him for fraud. A bitter laugh escaped me. So he tried to steal from me even after death. What was his plan? Arrange an accident after the divorce was final? We don't know. But given that he waited to finalize the divorce until after your mother's funeral, when you were at your most vulnerable, Adrian trailed off. Let's just say I'm glad you're here and not in New York right now. A chill ran down my spine despite the tropical heat. You think he would have actually? I think Derek Whitmore is capable of anything when money is involved, and I think you're safer 6,000 miles away from him. I sank into one of the balcony loungers, suddenly exhausted. This is insane. 2 months ago, I was a happily married surgeon. Well, I thought I was happily married. Now I'm pregnant, divorced, robbed, and apparently targeted for murder. You're also the bravest person I know, Adrian said quietly. You got on that plane knowing you'd face them, knowing it would hurt. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. He paused. Natalie, about the pregnancy. Don't, I cut him off. I can't talk about that right now. One crisis at a time. Fair enough. But we will talk about it. Soon. After I hung up, I sat on the balcony for a long time, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. Bali was beautiful, postcard perfect, with its emerald rice terraces and temple silhouettes against the amber sky. Derek and Vanessa had chosen well for their honeymoon. Too bad they'd never get to enjoy it. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Federal charges filed. Derek Whitmore is officially wanted by the FBI for wire fraud and money laundering. If he somehow makes it back to USA soil, he'll be arrested on arrival. I typed back, "He won't make it back. Not for a while." Rachel: "Good. You doing okay?" "This is a lot." Was I okay? I was pregnant with an immigration officer's baby, watching my ex-husband get arrested for stealing my money to marry a con artist who sent me a mocking wedding invitation. Okay, seemed like a distant concept. "I'm managing," I replied, "taking it 1 hour at a time." Rachel: "That's all you can do. Call me if you need anything. And Nat, I'm proud of you. What you're doing takes guts." I closed my eyes, letting the warm breeze wash over me. Somewhere in this resort, there were happy couples celebrating their honeymoons, sipping cocktails by the pool, making love in ocean view suites, living the fantasy that Derek and Vanessa had planned. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw a hotel employee holding a covered tray. I opened the door cautiously. "Complimentary dinner, Dr. Harper," the young woman said with a bright smile. "From the resort manager. He heard about your situation and wanted to ensure your comfort." My situation. Word traveled fast. "Thank you," I said, taking the tray. She leaned in conspiratorially. "The man and woman who were supposed to be in the villa? Everyone's talking about it. The staff is very happy they were detained. They were rude when they checked in last month to view the property." "Last month?" I set the tray down. "They were here before?" "Oh yes." They spent 3 days inspecting the villa, making demands, treating the staff terribly. The man complained about everything. The woman tried to negotiate a discount by claiming she was a social media influencer. The employee rolled her eyes. We were not looking forward to their 3-week stay. I filed that information away. "Did they meet with anyone while they were here? Any business meetings?" The young woman thought for a moment. "Now that you mention it, yes. There was a man, European, I think, German or Swiss. He met with them at the beach bar. They seemed to be discussing something serious. The bartender said they were arguing about money." My mind raced. Another player in Derek and Vanessa's scheme? "Do you remember anything else about this man?" "He was very well dressed, expensive watch, designer clothes. He left in a private car." She smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, I don't remember more. But if you want, I can ask around the staff." "That would be helpful, thank you." I pulled out some cash for a tip, but she waved it away. "No need, Dr. Harper. Anyone who puts those two in their place deserves our help." She gave a little bow and left. I uncovered the tray, fresh grilled fish, tropical fruits, fragrant rice. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since the airport. As I ate, I texted Adrian about the mysterious European man. His response was immediate. "Interesting. I'll look into it." Could be Vanessa's handler, she rarely works alone. A handler, of course. Vanessa wasn't just a solo con artist, she was part of something bigger. I was finishing dinner when my phone rang again. Unknown number. "Dr. Harper?" A woman's voice. Indonesian accent. "This is Officer Sari Wijaya with the Immigration Detention Center. I'm calling about Derek Whitmore." My heart rate spiked. "Is something wrong?" "Mr. Whitmore is asking to speak with you. He says it's urgent, that he needs to explain something. You're under no obligation to see him, but—" "I'll come," I said before I could talk myself out of it. "When?" "Tonight if you're available. We can arrange transport from your hotel." 20 minutes later, I was in the back of an official vehicle heading to the detention center. Adrian had texted that he'd be there, that I didn't have to do this alone. But I needed to do this alone. I needed to look Derek in the eye and hear what pathetic excuse he'd concocted. The detention center was nothing like the lush resort. Harsh fluorescent lights, concrete walls, the smell of industrial cleaner. Officer Wijaya met me at the entrance, a compact woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper expression. "He's been difficult," she warned me as she led me through security. Entitled, keeps threatening lawsuits, demanding special treatment. But when we mentioned you were in Bali, he became desperate to see you. Why? That's what we'd like to know. She stopped outside a door with a small window. You'll be in a monitored room. We'll be watching. If you feel uncomfortable at any time, just signal and we'll end the interview. Interview. That's what this was. Not a conversation between ex-spouses. An interview where I held all the power. Derek was sitting at a metal table, his hands cuffed in front of him. He looked terrible, hair disheveled, shirt wrinkled, that carefully maintained appearance completely shattered. When he saw me, his face crumpled. Natalie. Thank God. I sat down across from him, keeping my expression neutral. You have 10 minutes. This is all a misunderstanding, he said quickly. These charges, the investigation, it's Vanessa. She's the one who did everything. She manipulated me, used me. I'm a victim here too. I almost laughed. Really? You're going with the woman made me do it? It's true. I met her at that conference, remember? She was so attentive, so interested in my work. I didn't know she was researching me, planning to use me to get to your money. My money that you stole, I said flatly. The investments you emptied, the brownstone you forged documents to steal. That was all Vanessa. Derek leaned forward, desperation in his eyes. She had me convinced it was for us, that we needed to hide assets from you because you were going to divorce me and take everything. She made me paranoid, made me think you were having an affair. So you preemptively stole from me? That's your defense? Natalie, please. You know me. You know I'm not a criminal. I made mistakes, yes. I got caught up in something I didn't understand. But I never wanted to hurt you. I thought about the life insurance policy, the timing of the divorce, his insistence on handling my mother's funeral arrangements while emptying our accounts. You increased my life insurance to $5 million, I said quietly. And you made sure our divorce wouldn't be final until after Mom died, when I was too grief-stricken to notice what you were doing. Derek's face went pale. That wasn't, the insurance was just what? Just in case I had a convenient accident? Just in case the wife you were robbing somehow didn't make it through her grief? No. He slammed his cuffed hands on the table, making me flinch. I would never hurt you. Never. The insurance was Vanessa's idea, but I swear I never intended to do anything with it. Then why forge my signature? Why hide it from me? He slumped back in his chair. Because I knew you'd ask questions, and I couldn't risk you finding out about Vanessa before. He trailed off. Before what? I pressed. Before the money was secured offshore. His voice was barely a whisper. Before I could disappear with her and start over somewhere else. There it was. The truth. Finally. Derek hadn't been a victim. He'd been a willing participant, planning to abandon me with nothing while he ran off with my money and my best friend. Why? I asked. Why did you marry me if this was always the plan? For the first time, Derek looked genuinely remorseful. It wasn't always the plan. When I married you, I loved you. Or I thought I did. But Natalie, you were never there. Always at the hospital, always choosing your patients over me. I felt like I was married to a ghost. So you decided to steal from the ghost and marry her best friend? I decided I deserved to be happy, he said. I deserved someone who would actually be present in my life. And yes, if that someone came with a plan to secure my financial future, I wasn't going to say no. I stood up, done with this conversation. You know what's funny? You're right. I wasn't there. I was too busy saving lives to notice my husband was a sociopath. I was too busy honoring my oath as a doctor to see that the man I trusted was planning to destroy me. Natalie? Wait. But here's what you didn't count on, I continued, leaning over the table. I'm not weak. I'm not broken, and I'm definitely not going to let you walk away from this. You want to know why I'm in Bali? I came here to watch you pay for what you did, and that's exactly what's happening. Derek's eyes widened. You knew. You knew about the detention. I signed the complaint myself, right before I got on the same plane as you. I smiled. Surprise. You vindictive. Careful, I warned. Everything you say is being recorded, and every threat, every insult, Every moment of your true character showing through. It's all evidence against you. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Derek? That villa you booked with my money? I'm staying in it. Well, technically I'm in the presidential suite 2 floors up. Better view. But your villa is empty, waiting for a honeymoon couple who will never arrive. I thought you'd want to know. His face turned red with rage, but before he could respond, I was out the door. Officer Wijaya was waiting in the hallway, a slight smile on her face. That was well done, Doctor. Harper, did you get what you needed? Oh yes. His admission that he knowingly transferred money offshore, that he planned to disappear, that the life insurance fraud was intentional? That's more than enough to hold him indefinitely. She walked me back toward the entrance. And the part about making you paranoid to justify his actions, that shows premeditation. The prosecutor will be very interested in that recording. Adrian was waiting by the exit, still in his uniform. When he saw me, concern flickered across his face. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. And surprisingly, I meant it. Better than fine, actually. I needed to see him, to hear him try to justify what he did. And now I know for certain that I'm making the right choice. Derek Whitmore deserves everything that's coming to him. We walked to Adrian's car in silence. Once inside, he didn't start the engine immediately. There's something you should know, he said. That European man the hotel staff mentioned? I found him. His name is Klaus Zimmerman. He's a financial facilitator, basically. He helps criminals move money across borders without detection. Vanessa's handler? More than that. He's her partner. They've been running this con together for 5 years. Derek isn't the first wealthy, unhappy husband they've targeted. He's the 7th we know about. My stomach turned. 7 men? 7 that we've confirmed. Could be more. Their pattern is always the same. Vanessa seduces the husband, convinces him to steal from his wife, they move the money offshore, then disappear before anyone realizes what happened. Usually, they're gone before the wife even files for divorce. What made Derek different? Adrian turned to face me. You filed for divorce faster than they expected. And you had resources, your medical career, your own money, connections. Most of their previous victims were housewives or women in lower-paying careers. You were harder to control. So they sent the invitation to torment me? I think they sent it to keep you distracted. While you were focused on the humiliation of their wedding, they planned to drain the last of your accounts and vanish. But they didn't count on you actually showing up. And they definitely didn't count on me. I leaned my head back against the seat. Where's Klaus now? Singapore. But not for long. I've already contacted Interpol. He'll be arrested within 48 hours. And then we dismantle their entire operation. We find every victim, recover what money we can, and make sure they spend the next decade in prison. He reached over and took my hand. Natalie, this is bigger than just revenge on Derek. You're helping us stop a criminal enterprise. I looked down at our intertwined hands. I'm still angry with you. For lying. For investigating me. You should be, but I'm also grateful. If you hadn't been watching. I couldn't finish the sentence. I know. He squeezed my hand. I'm sorry for how this started, but I'm not sorry for where we are now. Even with the pregnancy? Especially with the pregnancy. He met my eyes. If you decide to keep it. That was the question, wasn't it? Could I bring a child into this mess? Could I trust Adrian after everything? Could I trust myself? I need time, I said. Time to process all of this. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. He started the car. Let me take you back to the resort. You've had a long day. As we drove through the Bali night, past temples lit with golden lanterns and streets filled with evening crowds, I felt something shift inside me. The victim I'd been when I arrived at JFK was gone. In her place was someone harder. Someone who'd looked her betrayer in the eye and felt nothing but contempt. Someone who was finally ready to take back control of her life. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown Indonesian number. Dr. Harper, this is Vanessa. I need to talk to you, please. It's important. I showed the message to Adrian. His jaw tightened. "It's a trap," he said. "She wants to manipulate you, get you to drop charges, something." "Or," I said slowly, "she wants to make a deal. Klaus is being arrested. Derek confessed on camera. She knows the walls are closing in." "What are you thinking?" I looked at the message again. "I'm thinking that tomorrow I'm going to visit my former best friend, and I'm going to hear exactly what she has to say." Adrian didn't look happy, but he nodded. "I'll arrange it, but I'm coming with you." "Deal." As we pulled up to the resort, I felt a strange sense of calm. Tomorrow would bring new revelations, new confrontations. But tonight, I would sleep in luxury while my enemies rotted in cells. Tonight, I would rest, because tomorrow, the real revenge began. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.